And welcome back to the channel. Last video I upgraded the clutch to that new one, Recluse clutch. Today I'm just going to take off the throttle body, your valve, your heads, cylinder head. Also I can put in the new cylinders and the cam. So take the throttle body off, you got to disconnect all the electrics that are attached to it. And there's a few of them. You have your throttle body sensor, which is on the other side. You have two fuel injectors, one on this side. You can't mix them up because this one is so short it's never going to reach this side. Your idle controller controls the how much air is going in the engine when you're not moving. And there's a map sensor right here. That little hose goes and attaches to that left side. All those have got to come off. And you got some rubber hoses that come off. This engine breather from your airbox. Up a little higher is your idle air. Again, this is where your air comes when your engine's just idling. Comes from your airbox right into the throttle body. Just take it off the throttle body side. It's attached to the airbox, so you can't take it off that side. And that's it for now. There's two other hoses, but right there, looks like this. This is for your part of the evap system that attaches to a tiny little hose outlet on either side and goes down to your evap system, which I took off, so I no longer have. I just have plugs holding that, covering that hole up. Well, anyway, first you're gonna take off. There's 4 clamps, like hose clamps, that 2 on each side. I think it's a 4 mil. Just take them, just loosen them all the way before it comes out of the captured nut on the other side. If you take it out all the way, you run the risk of dropping something. It's a spacer right here. I guess so you don't over tighten them and crush it. I lost one because I did take it off all the way. Just loosen it all the way up so you can easily move it around. I'm guessing it dropped right down, straight down, and went underneath the starter. I'll look into that later on. Well, anyway, you think this is held in really tight. You can try to pry it off, but you're just going to damage it. What you need to do is 10 mil socket. There's 2 bolts on top. One in between the where your seat bolts to, your gas tank bolts to, and the other one just a little bit further back. That holds this airbox tightly in there. What you're going to have to do is shift it a little just so you can get this thing off, because it's really tight. And it should be, because you don't want air leak. There's just 2 of them on top. And when you take anything off, have a selection of Ziploc bags handy, just so you can put everything, lock everything away right away before you drop anything or lose anything. I have a habit sometimes of taking something off and leave it up here, and then I bump it, and then it drops in somewhere, and I'm 20 minutes looking for it, which happened to, there's washers that hold the ABS on. I looked for 20 minutes, I couldn't find it. I finally found it, was up here, but I had this cover off. I thought I dropped it in the engine. No, it was up here. So anything you take off, put it in a bag right away, and it's safe. So now it's loose a little bit. But it's still a little tight. What you can do is take the battery, loosen the battery tray off, also 10 mil, because there's a tiny little section on the bottom of this airbox that fits inside a slot on the battery, so that's preventing you really from moving it too much. I have more things taken apart than you need to. Let me just drop the bolt down here somewhere. Oh, there it is. Only because my battery tray is rusted. It's the only part I see on this bike after 3 years is being rusted. So I was taking this thing out altogether so I can grind the rust off, and there it is. Come on. There. Again, put it in a bag so you know where it is. Obviously, you don't. I took more stuff off than you need to. You don't have to take the back wheel off. You don't have to take the inner part of the fender off and all these connections. I only did it because everything is attached to this battery tray. The fender's attached to the battery tray. A lot of wires go underneath. The other part of the electric system goes in there. And your other parts, electronics, go in there. Everything's in there. Well, anyway, look. So there's a slot that the airbox attached goes into. So now I can shift it down. Now you got room. Otherwise, you're not doing it, or you're gonna mess this up. Now these rubbers are free to come off, and since I took off the straps already, it'll come right out. Let me move the camera a little bit. So now you just take both fans, and out it comes. There's your other electronics connections there. There's your fuel injector connection, electrical connection on both sides. Your idle air controller, which is controlled by your ECU. There's just a valve in here that opens and closes. That has this electric connection right here. Your throttle body position sensor. So the ECU knows where that is. Fuel rail, obviously. Your idle air hose from the airbox goes straight in there. And yeah, this is where those two hoses went to. One on each side. See the rubber caps I have there now? Normally that's where those hoses would go. All that does is take gas fumes when you stop the bike, and puts them through your charcoal canister. I removed that whole evap system. And one other thing, that little nozzle right there, that's another airline. There's your map sensor. That goes through this bracket and attaches right to that like that. So you gotta take all that stuff off to remove this throttle body. Intake side don't look bad at all. The other side, that's gonna need a nice cleaning later, but that's another video. Now that's off. What we gotta do now, one of the engine mounts goes right through the top here, which is part of this head. I already have it loose, but I think it's a 15 or something. Take the bolt out. My washer just fell down. Like that. Now this bracket is a 2-piece bracket instead of one. And I'm 6 mil Allen. Takes that off. I never took this off, so it's on there. Just to get that out of the way, so you got a little, well, you can't take this head off without, because it's attached to it. Just take this bracket out of the way. Should have used an Allen socket for this. That's one piece. See, it's in 2 pieces, and that's the part of the front, part of the engine that holds onto. Now the other side's exactly the same. Oh, this has probably got a Loctite on it. It feels like it, for sure. I love Loctite. This one. Yeah, definitely Loctite on that thing. Yeah, today I'm just taking this stuff off. I don't want it to run too long. This is your other side. You can tell the difference between the sides. This is the left side that has a hole in it with a rubber grommet, because your map sensor goes through this hole and then down into your throttle body where I showed you before. So you can't mix up these sides. Okay. Now I'll take the valve cover off. Anybody who's done tappets will know what you gotta do for that. These are 8 mil. I already loosened them a little, so that's why. Not that they're very tight anyway. They're not. Now the other side, same thing. I've done the tappets 5 times. I've already had 5 oil changes. When I put this bike back together, that'll be the 6th oil change. It's just went over 30,000 miles before I stopped it and started this project. So again, put them away. I'll put the whole bracket in this one. Now you know where everything goes together, and you're not going to lose it. Because it's easy to lose things. Now I raised the ABS. I loosened these bolts and put a piece of wood on there, raise it up so it makes it easier to get out, which is what I used to do when I do the tappets anyway. There's no horns in the way, so I took them out of the way just to make everything easy. There we go. Now this valve cover, the gasket, I glued in place on my first oil change, and it's been there in one place ever since then. What I did was just make little dots of the gasket sealer all the way around and let it sit there for a little bit. And I never had to fight with this gasket again. It's a good idea. All right. Now we take the rocker arms off. We got to move to the other side of the bike. Take care of that. All right, to remove the rocker boxes, we got to have access to be able to turn the crank. Normally your plug looks like this with a 14 mil socket. You need to take it off. I changed mine to this nice brass unit, custom made by a friend of mine in England, but he does make it for other people. Looks a lot nicer than what they give you. Theirs is, I think, aluminum. Solid brass. Anyway, onto the rocker box. You gotta have a 17 mil socket. And we gotta turn this to line up the left side dead center. If you did the tappets before, you know this. Okay, we gotta mark up. We gotta line up the L to right in the middle of that line, right here. That's the same thing way you do these tappets. All right. Now, what is this? Oh. Need a 10 mil socket to get that off. You're only taking off the left one right now. So you line up the left line, and you have to take up those 4 bolts that hold the rocker on the left side rocker on. We got 2 here and 2 in the back. These aren't really tight. They don't have to be. Number 2. And we got 2 more on the other side. Why you turn to the left to take these off? Because it takes the tension of the springs is much less right now. Well, actually one side is. But that's exactly what the manual tells you to do. Line up the L to take the left side off. And then, if you haven't guessed it right, you move the crank to the right side to take the other side off. Now again, use a sandwich bag, Ziploc bag, keep all these together, and the rocker box together, rockers. Now these are just shimmy off. Yeah, you gotta rock the rocker box. There's your left side. If you use a big Ziploc sandwich bag, you can actually put the whole thing in one bag. Like that. You keep everything together. Okay. Now we rotate the crank again until the R is lined up. Center line. All right. Then I can move the camera to the other side. Right. Grab our socket. 10 mil again. Since these aren't very tight, they don't tell you like do a pad or anything. You just have to take them off. You can turn by hand after a certain point. One more left. Good time for close. Take the bolts out. Put them in a bag. There you go. Right side rocker is off. And the whole thing, the whole thing fits in the bag. So left side and right side are kept all together. Okay. Now we got to go to chain tensioner. We can't take out the cam without loosening the chain, the timing chain on it, because it's not going to come out otherwise. This is right here. This is your chain. This is what gives attention to this chain up here. First, we got to take out the center one, which is a 10 millivolt. I'll go on the other side to make it easier. It's not really tight. It's really just a cap. What's inside that is what we need to try loosen. There's a screw in here. So when you need a flat blade screwdriver, you'll find it where it is. And you gotta back this screw out. I need a smaller screwdriver in this. Hold on. Probably put this one in the bag first. And there's two others right here. One on top and one on bottom. You have to take those out too. I'm going to move this out of the way a little more. I might move the whole airbox out of it. Take the airbox out when I put everything back together. Not sure yet. Anyway, I'm going to just remove these hoses out of the way so this thing maybe falls back a little more. So you got to take out these two screws. Now, what I learned trying to do this the other day, these screws, though they look like Phillips, are not Phillips. They're JIS, Japanese spec ones. So I've tried with 3 screwdrivers to get these things out. It would just tear it up. So I ordered a JIS one off the Amazon. It looks the same, but it's not. It's a different, JISs are a different angle. And it comes right off. On the throttle body as well, all the little screws that are on the throttle body are JIS. Not that you really have to take any of them off, but just telling you, they're not Phillips. And I can shift this thing back and easier to get that screw out. There's a flathead screw that's inside that hole. You could see it in there. Tell me that's a JS too. All right. I'm having a hard time with this screw, so I'm going to take out the other 2 screws, bolts that hold the whole thing in, and then back that screw out after it's out of the bike, because it's not moving for me. These are 8mm sockets. wonder if they put Loctite on that screw. It ain't moving. But there's no reason why I can't back it out after I take it out of the bike. I'll show you what the inside looks like. That screw inside there after I get it off. Maybe it's the angle, but I didn't budge it at all. Don't drop these screws. Oh, the other one's not like that. Maybe it's a misprint in the manual to take it out first, and then you can back the screw out. And all this thing does is push on the chain. Well, I think it pushes on something else, but you get the idea. So there's tension on your chain and it doesn't fall off. That's all this does. I'm sure that probably screw is going to move real easy now. It's not pushing on a chain. You can see the inside there. It's a flathead screw in there. I end up, it's got to be small enough to go through the other one. Good to have a magnet handy, because to grab onto so you don't drop it in there. You definitely don't want to do that. Got my magnet. See it pop up a little bit? If you can see it. I need something smaller than that screwdriver. Just find something smaller. And I found something small enough. There it is. I call it a sea washer because it looks like a sea. Definitely don't want to lose this. In a bag. All right. Now we're ready to take the cam bolts out. There are two of these opposite each other. So this one, you gotta rotate the crank and do it again. You know what? I'm gonna take a picture first. least I know where it was before. You can put this all back together, and the timing might be just a little off. I'm just going to put a mark. Book doesn't tell you to do that. I just feel better if I did. Shouldn't be that tight. There we go. I had to hold my T-handle socket at the same time. Definitely don't want to drop this. Now I gotta rotate, bring up the other screw, bolt rather. And just make it a know where it is, because these holes are slotted, and you can change the cam slightly if you don't put it right back in the same place. Okay. That's not working. All right, got it. Probably need to loosen this before I took the C-bolt out. Then it would have stopped it from rocking back and forth. My mistake. Just want to put a mark. I'll make this one black, then I know it's the left side for the left. Okay. Just lift the cam out of there. So we say. Yeah, you gotta pull it off the shaft first. And then take it off here. And then try to get it all out without dropping the chain. There's our gear. We reuse that. We don't change that part. There's our cam. Not beat up at all. That's good. Yeah, I'm not gonna get through there. I'm just making it easy to hold on to. Put something through the chain to hold it from falling down. Alright, cam is out. We support the chain on the sides so we don't drop it. Now we got 8 studs that hold this head on. And you have to slowly take them off in a crisscross pattern. That is, there's 4 in the center. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then there's 2 on either side. I tell you to do 1, 2, 3, 4 a little bit. Well, I tell you to crisscross this one, so I'm just going to go on the side. A little at a time so it comes off. So you're not putting too much stress. Oh, man. Let me get the breaker bar for that. That would be easier. Okay. Yeah, this ABS unit gets in the way. Knock my microphone off. Awesome. Needs a longer extension than that. Definitely not easy to go through. I wanted to take the engine out completely. Be a little easier to work on. But I ran into the problem. There's the 2 mounts in the back of the engine have something called frame adjusters. and I don't have the tool to take them out. I'm not going to buy one because it's outrageously expensive. I could try to make one, but just do it this way. Oops, sorry. Let's break them off. These bolts are not reusable. You have to get new bolts if you do this job. Supposedly they stretch. That's why you can't use them again. Whew. And I go back to the middle again. Just my socket just fell down. It's not a terribly big ideal if you do drop this chain, but I like to keep it up here. These bolts are about $8 and change a piece. They're pretty long. And of course they're made out of material that stretches somewhat when you torque them up. All right. All 8 are loose now. There you go. That's what they look like. And one note, these have washers on them. You have to save these washers like that. New bolts don't come with them, so you have to reuse these washers. That's important because otherwise you'll be out of washer. Just save it. Save the old ones. I didn't tell you before, I never did this before. Went this far anyway, I never went into this engine this far. A little scary, but I know I can put it back together. The only thing I might have a problem with is the timing stuff. That might take me a little bit. I have to make something to adapt a timing wheel to fit the interceptor. River Recycles in Australia sent me pictures of what they use, what they made to go to fit this interceptor, to connect the timing wheel to that side, because you can't buy one. That fits it. Well, that bolt's not going to come out right away. Actually hits the frame. Put it the right way. Now it's got oil all over it. It's been slippery. All right, moment of truth. Taking his head off. Ay, 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 ay. Soft hammer, not a metal one. It's loose. I forgot those 4 inner bolts. So the washer on that one is still there. Don't try to take this head off with a loose washer and drop it. That would not be good. And these are full of oil. Actually, it's easier with the magnet. There you go. Use a magnet. Try and get it out with your fingers. Could be trouble. All you gotta do is, especially in the center here, you drop it right down there, go all the way down the bottom. It's this ABS unit is in the way. Again, my washer's still in there. Pull it out. It's a strong magnet. Don't want to let go. One more. And it's off. This washer's on the bolt. Okay. Actually, you can take this part out too. The instructions say you can pull this chain guide out. Well, actually, probably after you take this off. I want to grab the chain when I take this off and not let it drop. Just pull it out the bottom. and then take something to hold it from falling down. And here's our head, as it is. Take this guide out of here. This is the chain guide. I'm sure it's a lot easier with 4 hands rather than just me. That and the fact it's full of oil. It's coming out the side. There we go. It doesn't look too bad, actually. Got some carbon on it. Got some carbon on the valves. We'll have to clean all this up before we put it back together. No sense of putting it back dirty. Alright. That's the head. Valve hood anyway. There's the guide. So these little knobs, nibs, like whatever you want to call them, they're on top when you put this back together. Here's our gasket. Ooh, it smells. This is what they call a multi-layer gasket. That's the biggest cause. It's metal, and there's 3 extra layers in this thing. Right, 1, 2, 3, together. I have a new one of these. And when you put this back, there's a side that's marked bright and marked, yeah, right here. Right hand side. So I have to go like this. Right hand side. So this has got to come off now. And when this comes off, your pistons just, I have to cut to catch them. Ooh, it stinks. I'm going to move the crank and move the pistons a little, because they're obviously in the cylinders. That should make it a little easier. Same as before. Hold the chain. Let's take this out. Actually, I can make a zip tie. Zip it through a hole in the frame, and it won't drop. So I don't take anything else off, except for the pistons. There's what our pistons look like. Bit of carbon on top, but obviously that would happen. We're not have to clean these because we got new pistons. New pistons and rings. Now look at the head. Oops. Don't lose these. These are pins, so everything lines up when you put them back. Actually, one there. One here. I'll put them back right now, but I'll take them out. Yeah, a little carbon on the top, but the honing is still there. So all it's going to need is a good clean. I had stuck a borescope down here and looked at it. It didn't look too bad, but that's a really tiny camera, so everything looks big. So there you go. It's stripped down, ready to be cleaned up, and then we can put the new parts in. It's dark out. It's very cold out. I had to buy a heater yesterday just so I can stay in this room. It's below freezing. Well, there you have it. It's coming along. So if you like the video, leave a like. And if you're not subscribed and you don't want to miss the rest of this series of high compression build, hit the button subscribe, and I'll see you then. Bye now.